What's going on, YouTube? Tronich here. Still need an intro. Don't have one yet. Need the catchphrase. Shoot me up with a comment below. How should I start these shows off? So give me something to say. Put it in the comments below. While you're there, subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like, hit the everything. You know the drill. Today, I'm coming to you with some upgrades. That's right. Took the plunge. I said, you know what? I'm starting this vlog. I gotta start being up to date. So, not quite up to date, but some up to date. Where am I going with this? Got some new stuff I'm gonna talk to you about, stuff I did, because I love to tinker. You know that. Tinker my butt off. And what I got and how I liked it. We're not up to the point where I'm gonna be throwing any of that luscious footage up there yet, because I ain't got no luscious footage. Because I had no way to record such luscious footage. But now I do. You'll see. Coming up. This is where the intro would be, but I still don't have one, so please, someone, maybe make me an intro. Something quick, something that just says Tronich, and I'll put it right here. And they'll be like, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're back. That was so lame. Whatevs. We got a case, a big case today. I'll hold this up for you guys. And we got a little case that I basically attached to the side of it here. If you look up close, you'll see it says Amway. They're the Amway Commander V1s. Yes, I stepped away from my box goggles, my Eachines. Number one, they're a box goggle and they're really heavy on my face. I didn't like having to look around though. I mean, it's a huge, beautiful screen, but I didn't like having to look around the screen so much. Doesn't have diversity. Whole lot of reasons why I moved away from it. If you're into it, cool. Fat Sharks were just very expensive. I would love to get my hands on a pair of Fat Shark HD 3s, but those things are stupid expensive because that's just the goggle. So that was the, I was like, should I get the Commander? It's like $350. Should I get the Fat Shark? It's like $500. And then I realized, wait a minute, with $350, you get the receiver. With the Fat Shark, you're spending $500 and there's still no receiver inside. Maybe we'll upgrade, I'm not sure, but for right now, I've already started tricking them out a little bit. I've been getting some stickers and stuff. I'm liking what Team Black Sheep has been doing. Been checking out some of their stuff. Got my eye on a couple of their products. You know, showing some love to the Team Black Sheep, and got a little Team Black Sheep there. And then of course, gotta have googly eyes. Why do we have googly eyes? Well, very simple. When you're wearing these, when people look at you, at least it kind of makes it look like you're looking at them, so they, you know, I don't know. Kind of trips with people a little bit, but hey, it's my thing. Product, now what I did with it. Okay, well, a couple things. One, almost right away, my right angle thing broke. And I think this one's maybe starting to break again, or I don't know, something's going on. But pretty much every now and then it would just kind of beep and turn off. And then I couldn't get it to turn back on, and then I'd unplug it and I'd plug it back in, and then it would turn on. What I did was I swapped out the connector for another connector, and now this one seems to be giving me a little bit of problems too. What I did is I just cut the wire, spliced a new one on. The other thing I did with these, in the past I've plugged them in, put a battery on them, used them, then I finish flying, or I take them off my head and I put it down, and I'm such a newbie, I forget to pull this plug. Please, newcomers to the sport and wearing these style of goggles, when you take them off your head, form a habit to unplug this port off of this goggle. So, I'll explain why, but you're gonna want so that you're like, oh, I'm done using them, pull it out, pull them up, or pull them, well, you can't pull these down because it's got the strap on the top. A lot of Fat Shark people will pull them down, but unplug, lift them up, take them off, whatever you're gonna do with them, but unplug them. Why? I don't know if they're supposed to have any kind of voltage cutoff, but I've destroyed a couple batteries using these. Plug the battery in, and I just left it plugged in, left it turned on, left it sit. Came in the morning, picked up my goggles, and I saw the LiPo is still attached. I see the goggles are powered off, and I see the plug is still plugged in. And then I say, oh no, and then I check, and the battery is like toasted. So yeah, we don't want to do that often. So get in the habit of unplugging those before you take them off your face. So here's a LiPo pack that I'm using, and I would love to plug this up onto the goggle, and then have one of these deals sitting on here like that. Because I can set this for a low voltage alarm. It can just sit there clipped onto my head, and then this would be plugged into the goggles, and then if I forgot to take them off or forgot to whatever, when the battery got to the low voltage, alerting me it's time to not be an idiot and disconnect your goggles and now charge your battery. However, the problem is the connector for Amway powers the goggles off of your balance port. So you're using a regular LiPo pack, that's great, but it's through the balance port. So because it's through the balance port, you can't put one of these guys on. It's an old voltage alarm. This is, if you notice now, it only has two wires running from it. And the way it works is there's this little jumper here. And when it's here in this position, it's 6S, 7S, 8S, 9S, 10S, whatever. So as you move the jumper along, depends on what voltages it's looking for. But in this position, it's set up for monitoring 3S pack. And it only has two wires coming off of it, which is great, because that means I just wired those up to XT30. So I plug that on there. So now when I put my battery onto here, I make sure I plug in both. So it's sort of almost opposite. I'm powering the goggles with the balance port, and I'm powering my battery checker with the main port. But the good thing is now this puts this bright blue light that's dangling in my face so that I can actually tell the goggles are powered on, but there's no light, no LED or anything on the outside letting you know anything's happening. I wish this had something built into it to prevent batteries from going all the way dead, and if it does, I have no idea how to set it up because I couldn't figure it out. I didn't see anything in the manual about it. And I wish it also had some sort of indication it was turned on, like a bright LED on the top or something, so that this way if it's sitting down you'd see a bright LED and say, oops, I left it on by accident. I'm not going to go through the whole goggles because there's 100 videos out there about them, but they're great. And now that I have a DVR, I have my little memory card in there, so it just plugs in like that, boom, DVR. So maybe I can now start doing some footage of some flights. Now, notice there's no antennas on here, so I need antennas. So it comes with its own Amway patch antenna, and it comes with its own cloverleaf antenna, but I heard they're okay, but they're not great. I think it's circular wireless, but for instead of a patch antenna, I've opted for a spiral helical one. This is a very pricey antenna, but apparently it's a really good antenna. I went with this because I'm flying a lot of indoors and flying around a lot of stuff, so I need good penetration to go through walls, to go through ceilings, to go through floors. This puts out a beam. All right, so I know this is gonna be a long video to begin with, but long story short, this puts out, and like I was telling with the circular polarizer in a previous video, how it puts out a nice fluffy donut. Well, a helical puts out more of like a spotlight. You think of the cloverleaf as like a floodlight. It's everywhere. This is more of a spotlight. I think it's a great antenna. I mean, it is pricey, but you get what you pay for. I mean, this thing is rock solid. That helical wire cannot move. It's like locked in there with that plastic. Everything about this is just really well made, well designed, and they even give you all the little connectory bits to connect it up so that you can set it at the right angle for your goggles, and whether you have RPSMA or SMA connectors. And so I just put that on like this. The other thing you should do when you fly FPV while I'm putting this on here. So when you're doing that, you want to every now and then when you fly by yourself, take a look at yourself. What I mean by that is kind of get an idea of where your head is oriented. Which way are you sitting? Because if you noticed, I put this on my goggles and it's pointing up a little bit. And the reason why I did that is because I noticed that I have a tendency to look down a little bit when I'm flying. So when I look down a little bit, it again makes this now level to the flying area that I'll be flying in. So you just want to be aware of your head direction so that you can make sure that you position, if you have a directional antenna with diversity, you have that directional antenna pointing the direction that you're flying. Because I'll see people, they got a patch, they'll be sitting here like this, they'll have their clover leaf on one side, they'll have a patch antenna, which is plate ones, and they'll be sitting here like facing over this way, but they're flying in front of them. Well, that patch antenna really ain't doing anything unless you're flying over there and you're looking over here. But if you're flying in front of you, that patch antenna should be turned so it's facing forward. The other antenna I use for my clover leaf is in this box, a 3D printed box that I made because it's more of a delicate. This thing is like so sturdy and so rock solid. It's you can like, it feels almost indestructible. I mean, obviously it's destructible. It's plastic. You can break it easily. But I mean, I just throw it in my case. It's no problem. This, on the other hand, I feel is much more delicate. That's why I store it in a box. It again is by Circular. It's the same company. If it's Circular Wireless, I'll put the actual what it is somewhere. Maybe even right across the screen if I get fancy with the editing of what the brand is. But this is their little cloverleaf circular polarized. It's got some bend to it, so you know it's like rubbery. It's not, you can't bend it and it'll stay, it'll spring right back. But what's nice is if you like bump it on something, it's not gonna break either. It'll just kind of spring back up. But it's, if you notice, the little wings or veins or whatever those little wires are called are very, very thin. And I feel like this would get very damaged very quickly if not put in a little case. I would also not put this on the quad if you have where you can put antennas on your quad. I think this is more of just a good receiving antenna. Also, it's very pricey. But again, I'm at least hoping I get what I pay for. I mean, it hasn't done me wrong. So again, I screw this into here. And that's my setup. Do I think as a beginner you need to go to this route? I would say the goggles, absolutely. I'm loving these goggles so far. They're not doing me any wrong. If you have the money, I'd probably go get the Fat Sharks. But if you don't have the money and you want to step into something that's a low profile goggle like this, I cannot say enough great stuff about these Aomways. They are phenomenal. Do you need to spend, I think these antennas were maybe like 80 or 90 bucks a piece. No, but then you're saying to yourself, well, why did you spend so much on your antennas and cheap down on the goggles? Because the antennas can go onto any goggle. So if I do down the road ever decide to get a Fat Shark, I can stick these antennas on it. So it's not like I'm wasting my money. And from what I'm seeing, these are supposedly really good antennas. So I figured, what good is a great pair of goggles if you can't see? And you can't see if you can't get the signal. So I figured if I have good antennas, even if it's a cheapy pair of goggles, it maybe balances out in the end. And if I ever do get Fat Sharks, I can just put these antennas right on the Fat Shark. So I would not cheap out on antennas, especially the ones that go on your goggles, because they're not crashing unless you slam your head into the wall, but I don't know why you would do that. And they're what receive the signal, and why not? You know, get the best that you can afford. If you can't afford these, you can always get something else, but you know, this is what I chose. So I jumped on the gravy train along with Stu and Grumpy Trev over on UAV Futures channel. They're pretty much the ones that convinced me that I shouldn't even bother look at the Fat Sharks anymore, because I'm getting a lot of goodness out of here. Now I know Joshua Bardwell, not so much a fan of these, more of a fan of the Fat Shark brand, because the features that are in here he wasn't so keen on, but I don't know. I couldn't pass them up. I had to get these, so. But maybe one day I'll get some Fat Sharks. You see, you got a new radio. And I did listen to Mr. Joshua Bardwell and his recommendation for getting the Newbie drone lanyard to hold on to your transmitter. I will say that this is a phenomenal comfort, soft lanyard. Love this thing. So excellent recommendation there. These are Rotor Riot gimbal protectors that I printed out, found it on Thingiverse somewhere. So I just printed those out to protect my gimbals. This is the DX6. If you remember, my old radio was a DX6i. This is, I don't know if it's the upgraded model, I don't know, but it is amazing. I know a lot of people out there now. I started with Spektrum just because that's what I've done since back in the day when I was doing, first I was doing like RC cars and stuff, and then I stopped for that for a while, and then got into the quad flying stuff now, and I don't know, just Spektrum always seemed to be the brand that everyone was around, that at least around me, was using. So I'm kind of going down the same path as Drew, aka Ladrib, and being the weird one and only guy flying quads on a Spektrum while everyone else is flying their Tyrannus with FR Sky or whatever. And I think Drew flies a DX9, I think. It's the same radio, it just has more channels, so you can do more stuff. But I think it's phenomenal. I love that it talks to me. I love that it gives me timers. I love that it has a backlit display. I love the way the gimbals feel. I love the way it's just, I love it. I love this radio. So I would recommend, if you're just starting out and you want to go down, you did your research and you decided you want to go Spektrum as your protocol that you're going to use as your transmitter, then I would recommend either the DX6 or the DX9 or whichever one Drew over on his channel he flies. It has diversity inside, and I do know because I've taken it apart already. Of course I did, because I have to modify everything that I touch. And that's why you're probably wondering what this thing is over here on the top of this. Well, what I did, I followed the modification that that Drew did, which was to change out the antenna, because what this comes with by default is you have one dipole antenna here and you have one dipole antenna that's in this handle here. So with diversity and two dipoles, you always want to have them at right angles to each other. So as you can see, we have one going this way, we have one going this way, they're at right angles to each other. The problem is, as we're flying, typically we're holding our controller not like this, because this gives us good coverage with that frisbee I always talk about coming out this way, coming out, and we have the frisbee coming out this way. So you can see they form almost a target, and that would be aimed at where you're flying, so you get full coverage. However, most of us don't fly like this. Most of us fly with our controller in this sort of a position. I have a frisbee coming out this way, and I have a frisbee coming out this way. So if you notice, if I'm flying in front of me, I'm in the dead zone for this top antenna. So I'm really only flying on this second antenna as my transmit. This first antenna is really not doing much because I'm in that dead zone pointing at where I'm flying. What would be ideal is to have these at right angles if this antenna turned up, because then if this antenna was up, then it would still be at a 90 degree to this antenna. However, now the frisbee would be pointing out in the area that I'm flying. So that's what this is. What I did is I opened up the whole radio, and there's basically a little connector that connects this antenna. Now he has a whole video of the process. Go watch it. He did an excellent job. Basically disconnects it, you reconnect a new one, and then he made a 3D printed thing and pulled this antenna out and everything like that, because the DX9 has a thing here that you can remove and stuff like that. For the DX6, it's not as easy. You'd have to do some serious modifying, and I didn't feel like doing serious modifying. So I just left it. This is still the antenna, and if I want to, I can revert this back to stock in about 5 minutes. So all I did is instead I drilled a little hole off to the side and put my little connector there. Now, what's this little thing that I have on here? Well, if you watched my first video about my Hubsan, I mentioned about always having your antenna on when you power up a transmitter, otherwise it can damage it. And I mentioned having a dummy load. Well, that's what this is. This is a dummy load. Actually, this part here is the dummy load. So I'm bring that up so you can see it. But the antenna that I do put on there, this is the exact antenna. This is actually the exact stuff that Drew links on his video how to modify it. I just clicked the links on his video and purchased them. But this is the same exact antenna that he has linked on his videos of how he did it. And it just screws on like this. And then once it's screwed on, you just tip it up. So you see now, when you're flying, not only am I having a bigger antenna now, so this antenna is a higher dB gain than the original antenna because it's a bigger and it's a thicker and it's chunkier. He explains all of that on his video, so just go watch it and I don't have to spend my time on it. This is already a huge video as it is. And this Frisbee is going to be coming out this way, and this Frisbee is going to be coming out this way. And you see, they form a nice plus sign into the area that I'll be flying. And if I hold it up a little bit like that, well, that's how I naturally would be holding it. And if you see now, it's sort of aiming my plus sign a little bit up into the air, and that's where I'm going to be flying. So I just feel like I get so much more coverage, so much more range, and it just boosted the confidence of not being scared to fly further from this transmitter by putting this modification on there. The next thing I did to this transmitter is I swapped out in the back here. It comes with a little tray that you put your AA's into. So it looks like this. You put your AA's into that, and that thing plugs into the back there, and it just runs on AA batteries, which is great. And all the problem is AA batteries go dead relatively quick, and it's a pain in the butt that you forgot to charge your AA's. You get out to where you want to fly, you turn on, and now all of a sudden your transmitter's dead and you can't fly. The advantage of having, that's why I keep this in the pack in case I need to, I can throw some AA's into it to fly. But what I did do is instead I swapped out and I put a LiPo pack in the back. This is, I didn't have to modify anything. This pack I bought, I got I think on Amazon, and I'll pop it out here. It's a Pulse 4000 mAh TX battery. I'll bring it up to the screen here so you can see it. And that's what I got in here. And what I do is I just leave it connected because it has, I bought this one specific because it had both balance taps and main leads. So what I do is I can leave these plugged into the transmitter. I can leave the battery pack just sitting in here, so I have the balance leads. And then I just have one of these cheapy Eachine 3S, 4S chargers that just charge off the balance ports. So I just take this deal, plug it onto the balance leads, plug it into the wall, and I wait for the lights to turn green, and then I know it's charged. There's a menu option in the controller that you want to make a change to, that you're saying instead of using normal batteries, you're using a LiPo. And the reason why you want to do that is because so the battery meter knows how many volts it should have, knows what kind of power source it has, knows how to scale the battery meter for what's charged and what's not charged. Do I love it? Yes. I love this controller. I have no problems with it. I don't think I'm going to outgrow it anytime soon. If I was to outgrow it, the only thing that I was looking at, which a little foreshadowing, you know, Team Black Sheep, I am looking at their Tango product, just because it has the screen built into it like on the Hubsan. So I thought that might be something slick to have. And it looked pretty cool, but it's also expensive. I don't think I'm gonna be picking it up soon, but it's on my radar. I feel like I'll always be using this radio. The only thing is maybe it's just a little bit lacking in the channels, but I don't feel like that's really affecting me too much right now. I know when you look at like Joshua Bardwell, they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff with all their auxiliary channels and changing PIDs and doing all kinds of stuff like that. I'm not up to that level. That's it. Love the controller. I would recommend it to anyone starting out. I would recommend it to anyone who wants to fly a Spektrum radio. Next, I upgraded my charger. I mentioned in the previous video I wanted to get the CX610HV. So that's now what I've gotten. If you can see. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the high volt version of the charger that I used for my Tiny Whoops. And it's identical. There's really no difference between this one and the previous one, other than that this will charge to 4.35 volts and then stop. And I do notice a difference with the battery packs. They do seem to last longer. So I would recommend, if you are flying high volt packs, make sure you get the high volt charger. If you're not flying high volt packs, don't get the high volt charger, because you do not want to charge a standard LiPo to high voltage potential. You want a normal pack, 4.2. High volt pack, 4.35. Don't mix and match. If it's a high volt pack, put it on the high volt charger. I also got a bunch of new batteries for my Tiny Whoop. I've been really digging these Nitro Nectars by Newbie Drone. I feel like they've got a lot of juice in them. There's a lot of punch to them, so I'm really digging them. And again, I'm showing you a ton of gear here. None of this has been provided to me at all. I've paid full 100% retail, just like you will be paying 100% retail if you go to purchase these things. I'm spending my hard-earned money. I'm letting you know what I think about it. I'm not doing necessarily a review. You could call it a review, but I'm not getting in depth. I'm just kind of doing an overview review, if you will. And finally, this might have to be a video on its own, but this was my original Tiny Whoop, brand name, and I have now gone off-roading. Not literally, but I decided I wanted to build my own Whoop so I could show you what's going on inside of it. But here it is. This is a pretty intense build, at least for me, starting out. So I think I'll do a whole video on what I did and what I'm calling it the Troop, the Tronage Whoop. So I'll do a whole video about this next. I'll cut this video off and I'll just do a video now about what's inside, what I made, what I did, and what parts are inside this thing, so it's separate and we don't make this video any longer than it needs to be, because it's already long. New build of a Tiny Whoop called the Troop, Tronage Whoop. New radio, digging it, loving it. New goggles, box goggles, thing of the past. Amway Commander V1s, loving them. All right, so please, I know this video is huge and long, and I know I'm just basically showing you what I got, but I hope there's something in here that you took away from this, that you said, you know what, hey, I'm on the fence of this or that, maybe I should get this or that. Well, this guy likes it, so maybe I'll check it out too. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to inspire you to do what you want and to take you along on the journey of myself going into this hobby from the get-go, and basically from day one through this hobby, what I used, what I'm getting, what I'm thinking of getting, what I'm gonna get, what I wanna get. And then as I evolve, as the journey evolves, as you evolve, we grow together. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, hit that like, type in a message into the comments. Tell me what you want to see from this. Tell me what you like. Tell me what equipment you have, what you're starting out with, and then we can start a discussion, have a conversation about what's the best and what people should do when they first start in this hobby. All right, man? Take it easy. Later.